Hi there. I'm going to give you a quick introduction, pretty much, as to how I went from isolation to connection and the road that it took for me. So, isolation really for me was pretty much when I was at my lowest. I'd admitted that I was an alcoholic and I didn't want to drink anymore, but I was in such a state and really didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do. And I was suffering from incredible loneliness, and I really didn't have much. I didn't have any respect for myself, but I didn't really have any self-regard to what my future was, and suicide. Although I don't think I would have done it, it did enter my mind, and I did feel that life was pointless. I was in that place where I was questioning what's the point in life, what's my purpose on life. I just seem to be existing, and it'd be easier for everybody if I just left. So I was in a bad way, and I found myself talking to a woman at a party. I've stopped drinking on my own, and she stopped drinking with the aid of a 12-step fellowship, AA. And she said to me that if I wanted to go to a meeting with her, she'd take me. I didn't have to do anything. I'd just sit there and listen. And eventually I went with her to a meeting. And for the first time ever, I heard people sharing and talking about the stuff that I was feeling and thinking. These people were, I couldn't believe they were being so honest about what they were thinking, how they were feeling, what they did, what they got up to, how they lost everything, their jobs, their wives, their husbands, their families, their houses, all that. They lost everything, self-respect, the whole lot. And they were talking about this in a meeting with a smile on their face sometimes, laughing sometimes, and laughing about the incredible sort of bizarre moments that happen as well. It's not just tragic. There's some extremely comical stuff that happens when you're completely in substance addiction, but obviously it's also tragic because a lot of people go to suicide. A lot of people die. A lot of people go into institutions, and it's a serious business. And anyone who's in their cups and their addiction is, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So anyway, when I heard people talking about this, I finally felt that I belonged somewhere. It's the first place I'd felt that I belonged, and I thought to myself then, this is it. I've got to keep these people around me. These people they understand me, and for the first time I can talk about this stuff on an open basis and feel that I can trust their confidentiality, and that was my start. And when you go through a 12-step program, honesty is obviously one of the main keys to resolving your situations, making amends to others when you've made harms and financial harms where necessary, but also it's going out there and trying to be a better person and trying to make up for the time lost, make up for the relationships that you ruptured or you completely destroyed, and trying your best to get the people back in your life that you really loved and who loved you. And when you've got a tribe of people that are around you as support, really the world is your oyster, and we all have them. We all have those people that have stuck through us, even through the bad times. And sometimes we can get a bit complacent, that we can start being a bit maybe judgmental about them or whatever. But the thing is, what we need to treasure is the fact that they stayed with us, because we all have problems, maybe not so as drastic or as severe as mine, but you will have other issues that are sometimes insurmountable, or they feel insurmountable. So my tips for getting away from that loneliness, that isolation, into connection would be to don't go and find your tribe. You will have them anyway. You will have one or two people, maybe up to 5 people, where you think, yeah, that person I know will always be there. I can tell them anything and they'll be there for me. But there'll also be people out there who haven't yet found them. And whatever your situation is, I found that if I'm going to attract those sort of people into my life, and or they're going to be attracted by me, I'm going to have to be the best person I can be at any given time. So I had to basically have 5 stages. Now, the first stage was I started to check in with myself regularly. So just literally stop walking. You're walking down a corridor, just ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Just check in with yourself. Is there anything that's troubling me? I know immediately now when I'm disturbed. I'll get a reaction immediately, and I'll feel that in my stomach there's something not right, and I don't like it. So I want to act on that immediately, because I want to feel great. I want to feel content at least. But when I'm disturbed, I know that I just don't like it. And it spells dangers for me, so it's got a bit of a red flag. So, but I didn't get there quickly. It's a stage by stage process, and checking in with yourself regularly will start giving you that open door to your inner self. What your inner self is trying to tell you. And when I started doing that, I became a little bit more assured, and I would start dealing with things a lot quicker than I used to do. Leaving maybe an uncomfortable or an unfinished conversation, I would leave maybe for a few days before I went back to maybe make a resolution or make an amends. But I could do this much quicker now, and it's much better if you can do it quicker rather than later. A successful business takes its stock. It knows all its assets. So try and check in with yourself as to where you are with your goals. I do a vision board every year now, and I know what I want from this year. So how am I on that path? I know I want a flat this year. I want a 2-bedroom flat. What does that look like? Am I putting money away for it? How much money do I need to have for that flat to be able to afford it? How much money do I need for a deposit? What's my income like? Am I going to be able to put money away for it? So I'm checking in with myself. I'm trying to say to myself, I'm taking responsibility. I'm taking accountability of not only what I'm up to today, but what's happening in the future. Am I servicing my needs? Am I listening to myself? Another thing that I did with regards to a healing, and this was really about the connection for me, was people kept talking about the fact that we've all got an inner child, and I was a bit unsure initially, but I started believing it, and I got a photo of myself from the age of 5. I was sitting on a bike, and the only way I couldn't talk to myself as I was talking to my inner child, because it didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel authentic. But when I had this photo, I could look into my eyes and I could ask him questions. And it took me ages. I had to ask him every day how he was feeling, and I wasn't getting anything back. And I just started thinking, is this really a thing, or am I just being sold something that's just completely naff? But anyway, I persisted because I sensed that there was something going to come from it, and sure enough it did. And when I worked out why I wasn't getting through, is because my inner child is real, he's there now, but he'd been abandoned by me so many times. Every time I put myself in a harmful situation, I was abandoning him and putting him in danger as well. And I learned that if I get in touch with my inner child, I've now got to take responsibility and be the parent. So if I was feeling like I needed my mum or dad to, give me a hug or whatever, I could supply that myself now. And therefore I'm not needy. I'm not going to go out in the world expecting something from others, because if I expect things from other people, I'm usually disappointed. So now I can provide that service to myself, that need. So whenever I I feel disturbed, I can say, "What's the problem, little Martin? Why are you feeling like this? If you're not sure why you're feeling like this, let's take a step back and see what happened. What has just recently occurred in our situation, in our position in life. What have I met somebody that's disturbed me? Has somebody been angry, or somebody maybe has scared me, or somebody's done me a bad deed? Why am I feeling like this? And therefore I can always reassure him, just say, I'm going to take care of this. I'm the adult, you're the child, you stay where you are, I've got this. And sometimes if I'm in a conversation with somebody and they're maybe angry and my child's fearful, I can just ask him, inside, I can just say to him, stand behind my leg, I've got this, you're not going to get harmed. And while I'm doing this, I'm feeling secure, I'm feeling self-assured, and it gives me a much more mature balance and a much more mature standing to be able to deal with the situation at hand as well. If you start this process, it's basically a healing. So you do need to keep persisting with it, and it will become natural. You won't even start to, you'll do it without thinking, basically. But I did this course with Julia Cameron. She wrote a book called The Artist's Way, where she wrote it so that people get in touch with their creative selves, basically. And one of the things that she suggested was you have an artist day every week for 2 hours on your own. You go and do something you've always wanted to do, or your inner child wants you to do. So now, every week, I try and remember to have a 2-hour date with myself, no one else around, and I'll go and walk in the woods, go play marbles, I'll go by the sea, I'll go and watch a football game, I'll play the flute, whatever. I actually play the drums. But yeah, so anything like that. And when I do that, that is me effectively forming a relationship with my inner child, that inner self, that intuition. And when I do that, I feel the most fulfilled that I can feel, and the gratitude there in itself creates such a great feeling around you, and I personally believe starts making you much more abundant and prosperous in your life, and therefore you should start reaping the rewards of it. Anyway, if you wish to talk about this or anything else, or maybe have a one-to-one, email me, send me your number, and let's have a talk. Let's have a complimentary call about it. Thanks very much for listening.